Hey guys, and welcome back to the Pennies podcast with your host Kia. And this is a podcast where we aim to dispel your myths, simplify difficult financial jargon, and rectify your own personal problems. I can say this: Happy New Year! It's 2023, and I know you're probably thinking, Kia, this isn't at the beginning of the year. It's not what we're used to. I'm telling you, this is the beginning of the Pennies year, okay? Really and truly, the reason why I didn't come right at the beginning of the year is I had a lot going on. I've moved house, I think I mentioned briefly. I've moved out of London, so that was a whole thing for me. And I've also been on holiday quite a bit because I wanted to see new places and create content for you guys. So that's what I've been up to. But I'm back, I'm settled, and I'm here again with regular weekly episodes. So don't you worry, the new year is starting right. And we're starting with one of the best guests that I could ever think to kick us back off with. So guest, who are you?
Hello. So my name is Shola West, and my full-time job, I work in a media agency called OMD UK, and my title is a bit long. It's kind of,
Go for it.
But it's Media Partnerships and Social Content Executive. And I know that means nothing to anyone, so I'm sure we'll probably get into it. And then on the side, I'm a speaker, but I also do TikTok, like content creation for like young people who want to get into media.
Yeah, Shola, I'm so excited to have you here. Honestly, because
you.
how we met, we'll get into that in a little bit.
Yeah.
How we actually met. But first and foremost, you told us your long title and what you do. But I want to hear about you and your career. I think there's a lot you can find out about people when you delve into like their childhood and how they were at school.
Yeah.
So talk us through it. I can picture teenage you. So where were you as a teenager? What was your career like up until this point?
Okay, yeah, teenage me. So, let's start from school, GCSEs. I think I'm somebody who I was well behaved. It's a bit talkative, but, I had my head screwed on, but I didn't really like the whole GCSE stuff. I knew that just wasn't for me. Like, I wasn't really paying attention, and it was only later on in life I found out I had dyslexia. But if I had known that back then, it probably would have made sense as to why I just found it really hard to like pay attention. I was fidgeting, etc. So basically, because I knew I didn't want to do any of my GCSEs as A-levels, like, history or maths or anything like that, I was like, okay, what can I do? What am I passionate about? And at that time, I loved fashion. I was always watching like, the Toxic, America's Next Top Model and those sort of things. But that industry to me was just like amazing. I was like, I need to be in that industry. So I found a fashion college called Fashion Retail Academy. And that's basically what I did. So I started that in, I think, 2016, 17, one of those ones. And I did fashion retail and business. So basically I learned everything about fashion, from the styling to visual merchandising to marketing, PR, you name it. That was the course. And it was 2 years. And I basically did that. And then at the end of the 2 years, you have to decide which one you liked best. And that's when I was like, digital marketing is where it's at.
Okay.
And that was the first time I heard about digital marketing, because again, in school, we were just told, you can be a dentist, you can be a nurse,
the more traditional routes, right?
Traditional routes. And that's why I found it really hard for me, because I was like, well, I don't like any of these things. And then it came across like I was maybe lazy or something because I didn't want to just pick something. But actually in college, so around 18, I realized digital marketing is where I want to go. Like, that is what I want to do. So then in fashion college, they were very much like, okay, when you finish, everybody let's apply for uni. So I remember one time they took us into the computer room and they were like, guys, make your UCAS applications. Again, like I told you with my whole, education, all of that stuff, I just wasn't feeling going to uni. So whilst everybody was doing the UCAS applications, I was just basically sitting there trying to research other routes, found out about apprenticeships, and I was like, perfect, digital marketing, apprenticeships, that's where I'm going to go. So that was sort of like what I wanted to do when I finished, but it wasn't as easy as I thought. I tried to find an apprenticeship and it wasn't working out at first, because it was really difficult to find a fashion related digital marketing apprenticeship.
Okay, yes,
it's
specific.
So niche.
Yeah.
And apprenticeships are great now. Now you even have doctor apprenticeships. I think that was launched last year or this year. And that's all great. But when I was going for apprenticeships, they were still kind of niche. There wasn't as many, fields. So I was trying my best, and I literally couldn't find anything for the longest time.
Oh my gosh.
So I remember, because I was working in Five Guys at the time, my mum was just on to me, she's like, you didn't sign up for uni. Now you're just working in Five Guys. What are you doing with your life? And I was it was a lot of pressure.
Of course.
So a lot of people don't actually know this, but I basically found an apprenticeship thinking it was digital marketing, because I was like, you know what, if I can't find a fashion related one,
I'll just go for
digital marketing, because marketing is universal, you know what I mean? So get the qualification and you can always go back later. So because of the rush and the pressure, I went for one, and it turns out they kind of swindled me. It wasn't even digital marketing.
Was it like sales? One of them?
It was recruitment. They were,
Oh,
so I was
no.
recruiting for people to do digital marketing.
What?
Like, I don't know how they
is
flipped
rude.
it. I didn't even
That
know
is
my
rude.
training provider. I didn't even know like anything like that. So after a month, I literally left because I was like, this is just not for me. Like I tried, I really did try, and you know, with the pressure and everything, but I was like, this ain't for me. And obviously, you know, my mom's just like,
Your mom's saying, so
she's
what
like,
are you
"So
doing, girl?
Yeah, what are you doing? Like, so you ain't done this, you ain't
Yeah.
done this, you're just gonna quit all your jobs. And
Yeah.
it was just like a lot. So that was basically like from 16 to like 18.
Okay.
That was sort of where I was there. And then eventually I found an actual digital marketing apprenticeship at a company called White Hat at the time, but they're now known as Multiverse. So they're like a huge apprenticeship provider. And yeah, I basically joined there. I was in their community and events team. I had a lot of responsibility at 18 because like I was the first kind of second person in the team because it was a startup.
Okay,
And I basically
wow.
grew with them. And then that's how my career really started. Like that was the main teen areas, if that makes sense. But I was very much like ambitious and I knew what I wanted. So I was willing to take risks, even if it meant quitting, starting again, those sort of things.
And then that brought you on to where you are today.
Yeah, so when I did that digital marketing apprenticeship, I was, like I said, in their community team doing events and like that sort of thing. And then I basically was like, I want to do partnerships. Again, my whole career is like unconventional. Like it doesn't really make sense to people who, you know, they know what they wanted, they go to uni, for me, it was very much like this. So through that events job, I had the opportunity to put on an event with Monzo. And it was to basically help other apprentices. So I titled it How Not to Be Broke. So it was Multiverse times Monzo. And we had like loads of different financial experts like yourself, you know, on the panel speaking, giving advice. So then I realized partnerships is where it's at. I love partnerships. I like finding, you know, a company, bringing it together, making something out of it. You know, I'm a good communicator. I have like a strong vision. So I was like, that's what I want to do. So I tried to propose, you know, to that team, could I have a partnerships job? Could you literally just make me a partnerships associate or assistant, whatever it is? And I would just focus on bringing like more partnerships like Monzo to the team. But they basically were like, no, at the time. Like I really did try, but they were like, it's just not the time. Maybe they didn't have budget. I don't know why. They just said no. So at that point, I was like, well, I've finished my digital marketing apprenticeship. So, you know, maybe I should go and leave. So I was about to leave. You know, I handed in my resignation, all that stuff. But then actually somebody in their B2B marketing team, someone quite high up, the VP was like, well, Shola, you've made such an impact. You've done all these things. We'll make a role for you instead. So they actually made a role for me. So same company, just in a different team, B2B marketing. And they were like, you know, we'll give you a partnerships role. Here's the budget, like do it yourself basically. So again, this is like age 20.
Wow.
So I'm, you know, I've got this responsibility to build revenue, like to make revenue basically out of nothing. I didn't really have much, like no one to really go by because it was a role that was new. It was created for me, but it was a great experience because I learned the foundations of everything. Like that team had like zero revenue for partnerships. And then by the time I left, it was like making like 1 million plus. And it wasn't an easy road at all. There was definitely the tears. There was definitely days where I wanted to quit, but I learned so much in that job. It's mad. Like working in a startup, if you're a young person and you're like, I don't want to work in a startup because they're not known. Like I do think it's really beneficial because the amount of responsibility you get, like the skills you get, and yeah, the way you can build your CV and craft your roles and stuff like that, it's amazing. So I did that for a year, but it was after a while really like, you know, I wanted to get into fashion. Let's be real. So
Yeah,
how have I
that
gone
was
into
your
education?
You're
and tech?
banging on to.
I'm saying
onto that one.
fashion. So I'm like, okay, great, I learned all these skills, but like,
Yeah.
it's not creative enough for me. So I was like, okay, what do you want to do next? And then I basically was like, okay, media like seems interesting now. Like media kind of covers every single industry. There's advertising in every single industry. So I just kind of thought, you know, maybe go there. Came across my agency, came across the role, and I was like, I'm going to try and cater my CV so it's as translatable as possible because I did partnerships, adding in, you know, creative elements from different things I was doing on the side and applied for the role. And it was really good. I mean, the recruiter was amazing because she literally warned me, you're the only person applying for this role that doesn't have any like agency experience or media experience. But I see potential in you and your CV and what you've done. Do some research on these different media elements and then go for it. And then, yeah, I interviewed. It was, I think, 4th stage. And then, yeah.
That's incredible.
So it's been very like, it's not even linear. It's very much like I did a bit of this, did a bit of that. But this is how I'm here.
But I think the relatable thing about your journey is whatever age you are, nothing's ever linear. Like when I think about my journey to get to where I am today, from where I started in, you know, when I was in primary school, I wanted to be a marine biologist.
I feel like you told me this.
Yeah. Then in secondary school, I think what did I want to do in secondary school? To be fair, I just wanted to make money. I didn't really care.
Yeah, no.
And then when I got to 6th form, I was going to go into dentistry.
Damn.
And then in university, I studied business and French. But then I came, do you know what I mean? Like, nothing has ever been very clear. And I think for a lot of young people, it's knowing, especially looking at your journey, that you may be in a job right now that isn't for you, and you may be just finding your feet, and that's okay.
Yes.
But what I want to point out is that you had a lot of courage doing what you've done. Like, being 20 and going to your employer and saying, yeah, this is cool, but I want this job. Like, I like this element and I want you to create this for me, is massive.
Yeah.
For someone, especially at that young age, but even people in their 30s and 40s, that is something that they wouldn't even dream of doing. So how did you find that, like, have that confidence to be that kind of go-getter from such a young age?
That is a really good question. And actually, this is something I've done recently in my new job as well. So, like, there's a little promotion coming.
Oh, okay.
Where I've done the same thing again. I'm like,
congratulations.
Thank you. But yeah, so I've done the same thing here as well. Where I was like, all right, been here for a year. These are the things I'm good at. This is where I want to go. Can you create me a role? And I don't really know where it's come from. That's the thing. It's actually, when you put it that way, I'm not too sure. I think having doing an apprenticeship helped, because when you're an apprentice, like, you're thrown in the deep end. You're this young person in the office. You've got to learn how to build trust with stakeholders. You've got to be able to prove your worth and basically demyth a lot of like stereotypes people are going to have about you, that you don't know what you're doing, that you're lazy. So with time and practice, confidence does come. But also I feel like I'm someone who, I guess, although I had that pressure from my mum being like, you know, oh, what are you doing next? No one's ever pressurized me to do one thing.
Right.
So I think understanding from a really early age that I'm someone who does a bit of this and I do a bit of that has helped. Because I didn't even mention to you, like, even during the whole like secondary school stuff, I was doing like pageants and modeling and cheerleading and there's all these. I've always been someone that does multiple things. So for me, I just knew if I wanted to progress my career here, there wasn't a job available that I wanted to do. So I kind of gave it to them. I was like, well, I'm enjoying being here. You know, you see my value. I see the value of being here. Is there scope to create a role? And like I told you, the first time it didn't happen. So it was, you know, it wasn't just like, oh, I asked and I got it. Like, no, I tried and they didn't give it to me. Somebody else luckily spotted that the second time. So I think it's just like when you know yourself and you know what you want and you're driven by your ultimate goals, that will help. It gives you a bit of direction, even if it's not like, oh, I don't know what job I want. But if you know where you want to be or the rooms you want to be in and things you want to achieve, I think that helps.
I think that's right. Yeah, the rooms you want to be in. Once you picture that, then you know you're going to go full throttle on what you want, 100%.
Exactly.
Well, that's amazing. But off the back of what you said with partnerships, right? So obviously partnerships is where your heart has fallen in love with in terms of your career. Yeah. And I know you worked on some massive partnerships. One that I've actually been involved in.
The star of the show.
But one that I was involved in. So that was the Barclays and Channel 4, Money on My Mind, which was how we met.
That was how we met, guys.
On that shoot. Tell them how I was on the first day, because we were talking about it off camera, but how was I? When you
were
first
so funny.
How was I?
I mean, you were amazing because obviously, so I work behind the scenes in the whole media stuff. So when you see these campaigns come out, there's somebody who's like coming up with the ideas, working with the client, working with the media owner, doing all that stuff. So we obviously had talent come to our like table, being like, so someone was like, okay, these are different people we could feature. So we went through everybody's profile. So when I saw you, I was just like, you're amazing. Like, you're bubbly, like you've got this youthful energy. You'll bring something completely different to the show and Barclays. So I thought you were amazing. Then when I met you, you were actually quite shy. I was shocked because on camera, you're very much like,
yeah, I know.
And I remember when they asked you to introduce yourself and you were like, I don't know how to introduce myself. You were like, I've got my agent here. He can introduce me. Like, you were very shy and I didn't expect it at all.
Do you know what? I'm not a shy person, but I think when things are very new to me, like that was extremely new to me.
That was huge.
And because of how massive it was, I think I felt very overwhelmed and I felt like the focal point of this. Like, obviously there's myself, there's Emmanuel, there's Dr. Nikki, and I felt like, wow, everyone's looking at us, like it's us, and I'm like, obviously they're slightly older, so they're a bit more used to all this, whether they've done it before or not, they're just older in general.
Emmanuel's done stuff like
exactly
this.
Emmanuel's done stuff. Dr. Nikki's just older, so she's you know, a bit more acclimatized to this. Me, I was like, girl, I'm just here for a good time. Not literally like that, but I'm just like, this is my first time. So I think I felt very overwhelmed. I remember my manager was like, hey, you're good. Like, they picked you for a reason. And I wasn't feeling...
Because there was eyes on you. Like, you know, people see the end result, but like on set, there's like so many people walking around.
Yeah, I think that's why I felt so intimidated. Obviously, as we kept going on, I got a lot more... Like,
exactly.
After the first episode, I was like, yeah, this is fine. But at the first one, I remember I was so like, oh my gosh.
Like,
yeah, but that's the thing. I can switch on in front of the camera. Everyone's like, whoa.
And then in the camera, it's like,
And afterwards, I'm just like, yeah, okay. But after I got used to it. But speaking of that partnership, you worked on that. and many other massive campaigns and partnerships. How has it been? Like, obviously me, I'm in front of the camera.
Yeah.
And that was a lot. It was great, but it was a lot. But I just had to do my 6 episodes and go home. You had to do the preliminary stuff, the during, the after. How was that?
I mean, yeah. So with that particular campaign, I was only at my agency for maybe like 3 to 4 months when they put it on my plate and were like, well, we think you could do this. So bearing in mind, a lot of our sort of partnerships range between like 50K and 250K in terms of the cost of all of it. This was a £1 million partnership. So to be given that as my first partnership, I was just like, okay. And Barclays as a client, you know, they're quite serious. So I was like, okay, gonna learn a lot here. And luckily I had my manager, she was amazing. But then again, after like a couple months, she was like, I'm actually leaving the agency. So I was like, okay. So
not her just leaving you, girl.
Doing this on my own.
No.
Like, I don't have any experience. Like, the imposter syndrome was real. I was really nervous. I even cried when she left. Because I was just like nervous. Because I was like, you know, this is my first job. Like, in media, I really want to do well. And it was just like, and now I'm, you know, doing this huge partnership on my own. And it's one of those partnerships where there was just so many stakeholders, so many different things to just balance and manage. It was tricky at first.
Yeah.
But I think you learn. And when you're someone who just understand your value, that always can kind of help you in the end. Because there's people who are working on it who have years of experience, way more experience than me, have been in this field. But there were definitely times where what I said was valuable and it was things that nobody else noticed or picked out that I could bring to the table. So once I started doing that, I feel like I was just, you know, being more respected, and then I found it a lot easier. But it was definitely challenging at first because I was just like, this is the first one I have, you know.
But I feel like you should take that and be proud of that. The fact that they saw you and said, you can do this. It's a massive campaign, but we think you'd be a great fit to help make this work.
Yes.
I think says a lot about you.
It does. And my manager did say, because of my previous job and I'd worked with like financial clients before, like Monzo, they were like, you would be perfect for it. Yeah. Because you've kind of been in this industry. You understand how they are. Yeah. Because obviously a Barclays is going to be very different to like a Levi's.
Very different.
When you're doing
very
campaigns.
different. Yeah,
there's definitely different restrictions.
Yes, very different.
You would know.
Knowing working in the finance world, very different, very different. But I think just even that's how we met. Obviously on that shoot, and that was on the first day we met. But even just having you there, I was like, wow, this is great to have someone who's young like me, because I feel I was the youngest one out of the three of us in terms of hosting. So I definitely felt that difference anyways, yeah. That I was like, you know, Emmanuel's calling home to his wife and kids, and I'm like, I'm just here, just vibing. Yeah, you know what I mean? I'm just vibing. So I definitely felt like I'm a lot younger, and people were, you know, definitely pointing out that, oh my gosh, you're only 24. And I'm like, I know. Okay, yeah, I am young. So having you there was obviously nice to see like, wow, there's someone else who's young, but who's doing really well at what they're doing. Yeah, I remember I kept saying, you're doing such a good job. I know, I was like, thank you. I was really rooting for you. I was. I know, because it's intense though. Yeah. It is intense when you have all those people. I mean, if you've ever been on a set, trust me, that is a lot. And then we had to change your top last minute. Do you remember that? I was so upset. Because of brand guidelines. Guys. I was so upset because I had this whole vision. And then it's just the red leather. It was so nice. Thank you. Emmanuel was laughing at me saying, "This is what you're talking about." But I really had this vision of like, I'm gonna come in, boom. But anyway, that was all part of the fun of that campaign. It was a great campaign when it came out. Amazing, and it done really well in results as well. I know. Not anyone cares, but it did really well. We care. That's great. Yeah. On the topic of fashion, then, so you've been very transparent on. I think it's on TikTok, right? Yeah. Where you shown, I think it was TikTok I watched of yours recently, where you showed yourself basically over the years and how your style changed. Exactly. Where we saw your style change. So obviously, how you dressed when you was, let's say, 18 versus now is quite a big difference. Myself included. If people even look at the video, it's very When extreme. I saw that video, I said, you're like, wait, huh? I said, this is, wow. Yeah. But how important do you think that change in your fashion sense has been when it comes to your career? Do you think it was necessary? Do you think you still could have been how you were then? Again, there was nothing wrong with how you were then. Yeah, there was nothing wrong with that. But do you think, basically what I'm trying to say is, did you think it was necessary to change up how you looked and how you presented yourself to be in the career that you're in right now? Yeah, it's a really good question. I can't lie. I think it's such a difficult one. I've got like loads of things to talk about. Do you know Victor? You must know Victor. Victor Kunda. Yeah. It was him or somebody else. I don't know. I'm not going to quote, but somebody said something like, dress how you want to be addressed. And when I first heard that, I was so against it. I was like, absolutely not. Like, I do not agree with that saying, because ultimately that leaves rooms for like stereotyping and discrimination. So what if you don't have, you know, designer, now we can, you know, disrespect people. Yeah. I was very much like against that. And I still am to a certain extent, but I think
as I got older and I'm very much into my like spiritual stuff, like I have like a, you know, vision board, I manifest and stuff like that. The woman I want to be dresses a certain way. Like
that's it. There's
I can't
nothing
even
else
have
to
like
it.
there's really nothing else to talk about. Like she dresses a certain way. So it's not a case of me being like overnight, right guys, let me throw out everything and then like completely change. But I think over time, I just started dressing like the woman I wanted to be. It's not even about dress how I want to be addressed, because you're going to address me correctly regardless.
You need to have respect from my tracksuit or my blazer and trousers.
Like I built myself to a certain extent where you just need to respect me regardless.
100%.
Because there will be days where I don't look all, you know, put together. But I think it was more a personal thing where I was like, I want to be this kind of woman and that's how she dresses. So let me try and do that. So I think it was last year I was like, I want to have a more like time capsule wardrobe.
I'm on you with
and that helps me with savings as well anyway, because, you know.
You invest in statement pieces.
Yes.
And then those pieces, you get enough, you know, get a couple blazers, couple trousers, couple bits, you can swap out and make different outfits.
Mix match, literally. So actually in terms of savings wise, that helps, because before I'd buy these random like, I don't know, green sparkly top. Doesn't match anything. You wear it once and it's just sitting there.
Yeah.
So I think it was a combination of me just, growing up, being like, I guess getting more mature over time, and then seeing the woman I want to be and seeing how they dress and how they carry themselves. But I wouldn't say I've lost who I am though. I am the same girl, even if I dress slightly different, because as you said, it's quite extreme. You know, it would be like pink wild hair, some ripped up like shorts or whatever. But, you know, I think, I don't know.
You're kind of
I'm like iffy with it.
Iffy.
Because I can still go back to that. But I think, you know, I do like how I dress now. Yeah. More. For who I am at this point in my life.
I think that's important to point out. It's where you are at the point in life. Because like you, I went through... Do you remember back in the day we had all the different phases of people wear certain items of clothing? Like it was in style to wear this.
Like, what's it called? Tracksuits that had like a red stripe on the
do
side.
you know what I mean? There's all these things that came through and I used to follow the trends.
This and whatever.
Oh, gosh, I'm shivering. But like there was always some sort of style that everyone was following. Yes. And then I think when I started getting into this and doing more public speaking, I didn't really have any kind of attire that I guess people would naturally deem appropriate to talk about what I talk about. Yeah. And I remember, I think I've always told a story, I rolled up to a bank for a meeting and I rolled up in a tracksuit. I had no idea. Bear in mind, because I think I was going to uni afterwards. So I just went there and I thought I'm going to get on a train to uni, be comfortable. And they're all in suits. And that's the moment I got to the reception, I said, oh my gosh, I shouldn't have worn this.
No.
But I mean, I still went ahead of the meeting. I know they were looking at me a bit funny, like, oh, she's in a tracksuit. Why is she here? But obviously, once I opened my mouth, like you said, you're going to respect me regardless.
Respect me regardless.
But I think there is, as I've gotten older, I've realised, you know what, sometimes I'm going to be in tracksuit because it's comfortable and I want to wear that. But other times I want to be dressed up. I mean, I'm going to wear some trousers and some heeled boots because that's what I want to wear. Yeah. I think it is, like you said, dressing appropriately for each season of your life.
I really love a blazer. Like I think that's something that
I think that's
everyone
your signature.
at work knows. Like, because I have them in all colours. So I still do it in my way. Like, it doesn't mean I have to be, you know, monotone and boring, but I still have my style and my like energy. But yeah, I do dress slightly different. But I really like it. You know,
that's good though. You found you.
Yeah, I found me for now. But you know, I'm someone like my career. I change all the time. Yeah. So you know,
we never know. We just have to stay tuned.
We'll just have green hair.
Oh wow! All sorts. I feel like we really. I feel like we're nice on you though. I think if we do it well, I could be nice on you.
Blue lipstick and everything.
Okay, no. We took it too far.
You know, I used to bang blue lipstick when I was younger.
I feel like that was younger time. I think that was definitely younger time. I was a deep purple babe. You know that deep purple? I was deep purple babe. That was me. It's scary times. Scary times.
Whoa. No one can see them pictures. I didn't put those pictures in the video.
Those ones, I think people would hit unfollow. I can't lie to you. I would have seriously questioned my following to you.
Oh my
gosh. But on the topic of just media in general. So obviously you've broken into this industry and you're doing absolutely amazing. You're killing it. Promotion on the horizon. I love that for you. What would you say has been the most challenging thing about your industry or even getting into it?
Good one. I have a challenge for when you're in here. Okay. Especially as a Gen Z person. Sometimes, and a woman of colour as well. Sometimes you'll be on a campaign and you're the only one. Whether it's you're the only young person that's like under the age of like, I don't know, 30. Maybe you're the only like ethnic minority, whatever, right? And when the campaign is actually targeted to you, but everybody else in the room is not of that you know, characteristic, whatever. Sometimes you just hear people say things that don't make sense and isn't authentic to that community, or they're assuming. And, you know, because you're young, it can be really difficult to step in. I've had to do this a few times. It's still challenging, but that is something I find really difficult You know, obviously I'm not going to give too much examples, but there just have been times where there's a campaign. Let's just make up an example. Let's say it's a campaign aimed at Black women, and someone else in the room who isn't a Black woman, you know, just has these stereotypes or their own ideation of what, you know, is purposeful to us. And they start kind of giving these ideas and stuff. And it's like, in your heart, you're like, I know this ain't right. You know, like even like the H&M monkey situation. Yeah. That wasn't my campaign. I went on that. That was long before my time. Yeah. But you know, you see these things come out and you're like, was anybody in the room Black?
Anyone?
Or was anybody in the room of that? You know,
because I would put it out straight away. Because give it to another kid.
And sometimes there isn't people actually in the room. So now I'm that person in the room where there might be a situation where something's about to go wrong, or I know we could get cancelled if like that goes out. It's pressure. Yeah, it's a lot of pressure to be like, okay, you know, you're still young, so you know, you don't want to overstep anyone who's had the, you know, the years of experience. However, I know this isn't going to do my community justice, so I need to speak up somehow. And that's something I still struggle with, for sure.
Of course, that is a fine line that you've got to kind of walk between.
It's really, really challenging. And I don't think it's something that like, it gets easier over time, if I'm being completely honest with you. I think what will make it easier is just when industries like mine become more diverse.
I'm about to say, when there's more people, more people like you in the room, then it's not as much pressure on you.
Or somebody else might notice at this time, or you know, we can come together and figure out the best way to address everybody else. But when it is just you, it is really challenging.
Exactly.
And I think just being younger as well, naturally being a young person in a room with people, you know, whether you're an accountant in a room with, you know, loads of senior people, it can still be challenging.
Yeah.
When you have that extra layer of a certain characteristic that no one else has, and you've got to kind of, you know, be the voice of everyone, even though you're not, it can be really difficult.
Yeah, it can be very intense.
Yeah.
I want to ask you, as someone who has been working 9 to 5, there's been people who will be listening who maybe just start their own 9 to 5, who haven't gotten into it yet. I just want to kind of manage their finances, because it's a big jump when you come from working retail, working 0-hour contracts, to now having a 9 to 5 and now having to manage money. So I want to ask you, do you have any top tips for anyone listening when it comes to working 9 to 5 and figuring out your finances?
Yeah, I mean, I know you're the expert, so hopefully you can see if I'm good enough. But I do have like a budget tracker. I'm blessed in the sense that my boyfriend works in finance, so I have to be real and shout him out. That's the only reason why I have it, or I probably wouldn't have it. But that helps me big time. At the start of each, you know, when I get paid, I literally work out my ingoings, outgoings, all of that stuff. What am I doing this month? Is it somebody's birthday? Am I going on holiday? Do I need to save extra? It just helps, because for me, I'm a visual person. Like I said, I'm dyslexic. So for me, just having it in a sheet where I'm like, okay, if I do this and all I need to do is input the numbers and it works out how much I have left over, that helps me a lot. Because then you're pre-planning in advance.
Exactly.
And that way, you know, I always try to leave a buffer so that if something random does come up, I know I can. But that definitely helps me. I think save, you know, it's definitely difficult. I was someone who didn't save until I think I was about 19 or 20. I think it was because the Help to Buy ISA thing or something. And someone was like, oh, if you put in 1,000 or something, like, this is where I need your help.
The Help to Buy was £1. You need £1 to keep it open.
Yeah, all you needed was £1. But they were like, if you put 1,000, like at the beginning, it would help you like, make more money or something like that. So I was determined to get that 1,200.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, that's going to put me in the best position.
Yeah.
So for me, like saving with a goal in mind really helps. Like I get it. It's not easy to just save for a rainy day. Like especially when you're young, it can be, you know, we get it, it's important, but it's not always easy. So if you want to save for a house or a car or a holiday, like having that goal, I think really does help as well.
I agree. There's some great tips.
Yeah.
I co-sign those tips.
Beginners.
I co-sign those tips. Those are great tips. And anyone watching and listening, if you want a budget spreadsheet, we also do have a free one on Pennies to Pounds. You can go and download your own and sort your finances, like Shola said. Now, before we wrap up, I want to ask you, what are some of your top tips for anyone listening and watching who wants to get into, whether it's partnerships, media in general, or just digital marketing, or just get into the creative industry? What would be some of your top tips?
Yeah, I think with the creative industry, you have to kind of unlearn everything you've been taught in school. In school, it's very much about what's on paper, what is your grades, what is your highest level of education. And I think in the creative field, it's not like that very much. So instead, it's like, who do you know? Like, who are your contacts? Do you have a portfolio that demonstrates your creativity? Are you on LinkedIn? Do you have a personal brand? So I think if you're somebody who wants to get into a creative industry, try your best to have a personal brand where possible. It doesn't have to be huge. It's just literally having something, a platform, whether it's your Instagram or your YouTube or your TikTok or your LinkedIn or a website that demonstrates who you are, what you get up to, and people can associate, you know, that with you. So I think that's key. Where possible, try to go to as many like events as possible to network. I think a lot of people who get opportunities in this industry, like I said, it's not because you had a degree. Like a lot of people I know who are in the top positions don't even have a degree in anything to do with media, but it's who they actually know who's in the room. And I think that definitely has helped me as well. So where possible, try to go to like events with creatives. You can just go on Eventbrite and type in like,
there's so many out there.
yeah, no,
so
networking
many.
events for creatives, etc. I think also just know that like nothing has to be linear. You can do a bit of this, you can do a bit of that. I think Gen Z are very multifaceted anyway. Yeah. So, you know, don't ever feel like, okay, you want to get to this point, so you have to start off with that perfect job. You don't. You can get an internship, work your way up, or you can try a bit of that, do a placement. I think that's really important. Yeah. Like just knowing that, yeah, there isn't just a clean cut route, and you can dabble into different things as well.
You can figure out what works for you.
Yeah, and I always say to people, you sometimes have to take one step backwards to go 10 steps forward, because that's how I felt when I was basically doing an internship. I missed it out, but the gap between my fashion college at leaving and then getting my apprenticeship, I did an internship at like a modeling agency, and it was unpaid. And, you know, some people I know have this ego where they're like, I don't want to do it because, you know, I'm not getting paid. But I knew that that experience was going to help me. So I saw it as going back one step. You know, I have to work for someone for free, and then obviously doing Five Guys on the side. But then actually the experience I got has catapulted me, and it's, you know, it's not on my CV anymore, but at one point it was. So sometimes if you just have to go back a step, you do. Like the creative industry is a weird one sometimes. Not saying to people, you know, don't get paid and push for pay, but there are times where you have to do something at the price you might not want to. But if it's going to give you an invaluable experience and contacts and stuff to talk about, then sometimes you might have to just do it.
Yeah. These are some amazing tips. Thank you so much for blessing us with the first episode of 2023. Yes. For people who want to find you, where can they find you?
You can find me on TikTok at All Things Media Sis, where I basically promote loads of different creative opportunities. Or you can find me on LinkedIn, just Shola West, or my website, Shola West. Or my Instagram, Shola West.
Amazing. Yeah. Shola, thank you so much for coming on this episode.
Thank you.
To everyone,
I really enjoyed it.
Thank you so much for listening to this. We're back again next week and every week after that for 2023 with another new episode. Bye, guys.